This episode of the Lawn Care Business Success podcast is brought to you by Bluehost. Try the #1 recommended web hosting provider. With plans starting at just $3.95 a month, you'll get a free domain, free site builder, easy one-click WordPress installs, and 24/7 support. But what's just as impressive as what you get is what you don't get, as there's no contracts, no hidden fees, and no gimmicks. Go check them out at lawncarebusinesssuccess.com/Bluehost. You're listening to the Lawn Care Business Success Podcast, the weekly show sharing proven methods and systems in marketing, equipment, and customer service, educational and motivational, to help make your lawn care business an overwhelming success. Now here's your host, Julio Tomei. Welcome, Lawn Care Nation, to another episode of the Lawn Care Business Success Podcast. I'm your host, Julio Tomei, and this is episode number 168, entitled The Robots Are Coming. Well, hello, everybody, and thanks again for joining me this week on another episode of the Lawn Care Business Success Podcast. Really appreciate you guys tuning in each and every week, as always, as well as for the questions, the comments, the feedback that you guys have been sending through. And, of course, just a gentle reminder here for you guys who have not left reviews on iTunes for the podcast. If you do get value from listening to these podcast episodes and you want to show some of your appreciation, a great way to do that is to leave a review on iTunes. You can head on over to lawncarebusinesssuccess.com/reviews and you'll find all of the worldwide aggregated reviews from all of the different iTunes stores in each respective country, all sort of amalgamated there in one spot that you can read through. And if you're using an iPhone or iOS device and using the Apple podcast app, you can actually leave reviews directly from that podcast app now as well. And like I say, I really do appreciate the time that you guys take out to leave all those reviews. I know that it's a bit of effort on your part, but it is a great way to show your support. It adds that social proof to the podcast, lets people know that are searching for podcasts to listen to, looking for lawn care podcasts, that this is one that is worth listening to. I'm proud to say with the reviews that I've gotten, they've been mostly positive, and that I've got quite a few of them over the past 3 years. So just keep them coming, and I will read them out on the air as well as we move forward. That would be fantastic. Also, thanks to those of you who have been purchasing my landscape maintenance contract, as well as the employee handbook that was graciously donated to me by one of the podcast listeners. They're available on the resources page of my website, so lawncarebusinesssuccess.com/resources. So if you're looking for or have the need for a landscape maintenance contract, one that you can use to get your signatures and all that sort of stuff, and outline all of the services that you'll be providing at a property. As well, I've used this contract in the past as my bid proposal for commercial properties. So basically it outlines pretty much each area of a landscape that, would require maintenance, and sort of what sort of services you'll provide, the quantity, how often you'll show up, all that sort of stuff is covered in the contract. It's 8 pages long. It's in Word document form. And like I say, you can purchase it, and it's available for immediate download once you purchase it on the website, as well as that 8-page employee handbook. And you can feel free to use it and customize it. Just open it in your Microsoft Word or your other word processing software, and just change it and customize it and suit it to your needs for your specific business. Add your logos, all that sort of stuff. But it has great bones there. It's a great foundation or building block there. 8 pages worth of a contract that you can go through and, like I said, customize for your own business. So again, that's available for download, and I thank everybody so far who has gone out and purchased that and help support the podcast in that way as well. So I am going to just break for the podcast announcements, and then we'll get into this week's episode in its entirety right after this, so stay tuned. Hey guys, if you have any questions or comments about the show, I'd love to hear from you. You can head on over to lawncarebusinesssuccess.com/contact. For you Instagram users out there, be sure to follow me at lawncarebusinesssuccess. And if you haven't checked out my videos yet, well, what are you waiting for? Be sure to subscribe to the Lawn Care Business Success YouTube channel. Now, I know you guys love listening to audio while you work as much as I do, so I've partnered up with Audible to offer you guys a free 30-day trial and 2 free audiobooks of your choice. There's no long-term commitments, and you can cancel anytime. And get this, even if you cancel during your free trial period, you still get to keep the 2 free audiobooks. It's a great way to try the service and to see if Audible is right for you. So why not give it a try? Head on over to lawncarebusinesssuccess.com/audible. Now back to the show. Okay, so this week's episode is entitled The Robots Are Coming. Now, to be honest with you, I was sitting and trying to think of some ideas for this week's podcast, trying to think of, some topics that I haven't covered before. And I was literally going through my Instagram and saw somebody had liked my pictures recently. And there was a couple of likes from this account on some various pictures, and their logo and their Instagram profile picture and their Instagram name sort of caught my attention, and it was called Robin Autopilot. So I, clicked on their picture there to see their profile, and it says Robin Autopilot, world's first robotic lawn care service, disrupting a $70 billion landscape industry, franchising across the USA, featured on Shark Tank. So I started looking through their profile. I clicked on their website. And basically, this spurred on this topic for this week's episode, because it's an interesting idea and one that I hadn't really thought about in the past. So basically what these guys are, looks like what they're selling. Now, again, I haven't talked to them personally. I don't know, the finer details of what they're offering. I didn't see their Shark Tank presentation. But basically, from what I can see from their Instagram as well as from their website, and when I went onto their website, it had a little bit of information, but it was more looking like for people to sign up for an information pack on buying a franchise. But basically, what they're talking about is using those robotic mowers that we've all seen. There's ones from Still and Husqvarna, and I'm sure a bunch of different other brands, and deploying those on customer properties, setting them up and deploying them so that those are doing the mowing throughout the week, I would imagine, and then your crew shows up to do the other things that are required. So, of course, as most lawn care and landscaping businesses, things like are required, like hedge trimming and tree pruning, of course, edging of sidewalks, as well as general edging of the lawns, and a lot of things that the robotic mowers obviously cannot do and are not set up to. They're strictly there for mowing. So this company is looking to franchise and get, I guess, a chain of these businesses across the USA that would be doing this, offering sort of a hybrid service of mixing these robotic mowers with the human manpower to do everything else, and showing up, maybe on a weekly basis to those client lawns, but instead of doing the mowing, all you're doing is just trimming and edging, because the robotic mower would, of course, be doing the rest of it, as far as the mowing side of it goes. So what do you guys think about something like that? Do you think that, this would be something that would take off in your area? Do you think it's something that's viable? Now, of course, running I don't know the ins and outs of this company. I don't know what their background is, if they are previous lawn care or landscape business owners. But just speaking from my own experience, I could see right away that for me, like this would not work. There's no way that this would work. There's just too many variables involved for this sort of business model to work. Now, I'm not saying that those robotic mowers don't work. I can see a lot of different use case scenarios for those robotic mowers. As far as a homeowner goes, I could see them being used in areas where, say, a backyard, maybe an area where the yard is hard to access. Earlier in the spring, on my Instagram, I showed you guys a lawn that I went to go quote. And if you look back through my feed, you'll probably see that. But it was basically, you had to walk through part of the side of the house. There was a front lawn. You open the gate. There was a smaller side lawn. You walk through. There was a bunch of stairs that went down. Then you had to walk along a path. You had to go over a bridge, walk through the path again, and then there was 3 or 4 steps that had to go up to the lawn, and then there was this lawn. And the little bridge went over a creek that went across the property. And the person was looking for a quote for lawn care service, and that required me to have to take, my Honda commercial mower, because this pathways and stuff would only fit a 21-inch mower. And, I'd have to go with the mower and go down, this set of stairs all the way down, go through the pathway, over the bridge, cross the other pathway, then take it up a few stairs to get to the lawn to actually mow. And then, the debris, and if you're bagging the lawn and all that sort of stuff, would have to be carried all the way, the reverse process. So I could see, in a scenario like that, that a homeowner would be enticed to purchase a robotic mower for something like that, because they could have that set up for that difficult to access backyard. But then they still had, in this particular case, there was still obviously a front yard, and there was still a little side yard that would need to be mowed. But they were on ground level with the rest of the property, and could easily be, if a homeowner had a mower in the garage or something, could mow the front yard and mow that little side section behind the gate, but not have to worry about themselves, carrying down that mower every week. And I could see that sort of scenario. I can also see in the case of, say, a rooftop garden on top of a high rise in, a downtown area. They're becoming very popular to have green spaces on the roofs of these buildings. And, if you had a lawn up there, of setting up a robotic mower, in that sort of thing. They're small, they're lightweight, and you have it set up in that sort of scenario, with it mowing the lawn, in that sort of stuff. I've also seen the case for using a robotic mower sort of in a private setting, like a country club or something like that, where there may be an area of lawn, again, that's hard to get to, or in sort of a elevated area, that would require either push mowing to get done, where the rest of the property is, serviced with a zero-turn mower. So it could be a good solution for that too, instead of push mowing, and it being sort of the lawn that is beside the building and beside sort of the gathering place of the building, where they might have these patio doors open onto this section of lawn, where, you know, it being constantly cut with a robotic mower would work fantastically, because, you know, that's the area that's most used by the patrons of this particular establishment. And, you know, the surrounding areas of lawns aren't particularly used. They can be serviced on a weekly basis with, you know, the ride-on mowers, but having a robotic mower constantly out there every, you know, day or so, doing a quick trim, would keep it all looking very, you know, fit and finish, very nice, and well looked after for that area. So I can see those use case scenarios for using a robotic mower. But in the case of this, and like I say, I don't want to discount what they're offering. And I'm just, like I said, I did a quick little look at their webpage, quick look at their Instagram account. But I just started thinking about ways why this wouldn't work for me or in my particular area where I live, and why this isn't a concern for this type of business. And, you know, just off the top of my head, a few of the reasons why I don't think this would work would be, number one, these mowers are, if you've ever seen them working, they're relatively slow. So this is not something, obviously, that you would be able to set down when you're at a customer's property. They have to be mapped out. As far as a border, there has to be, you know, an initial installation of equipment. And, you know, that would be one part of it. So that part of it, obviously, you know, I understand you'd have to go there first to a client's house. You'd have to install, you know, or set up the mower. Usually it's sort of a underground wire that would go around the perimeter to keep the mower sort of in bounds of where it works. But when you see these mowers, there's not really any sort of rhyme or reason to them. They just kind of cruise around the property. When they get to, you know, a border, or an obstacle, they kind of, you know, reverse and then turn around and just start going in an opposite direction. And they can be all over the place. There's not really a pattern to them or anything like that I've seen, at least on the ones that I've seen demoed. I may be wrong, but you know, the you know, end of it is that it just takes a while to do. So obviously this wouldn't be something that I could see you pulling up to a customer's property and then turning on one of these mowers, setting it down while you do the trimming and all that sort of stuff, which, you know, then seems like it would be something that is left there. And if that's the case, then, again, a few issues. You know, if it's a front and backyard, if it's gated, then this can pose obviously an issue, because then you would either require two of these mowers, one for the backyard, one for the front yard. And that becomes an expensive investment in one client's property to have this equipment sitting there, particularly for a front yard, you know, with one of these mowers. You know, if it's not fenced off, I know a lot of the properties that I service here in the sort of region that I'm living in, backyards are all fenced off, but front yards are wide open. And there would just be, in this setting, there would just be way too much theft of these machines. If you have these machines just sitting around, you know, when they're docking in their charging station and all that sort of stuff, then it would just be too much to handle. Now, the other concerns that I can see with these types of mowers is, now I'm not sure how often they go out. I don't think that heavy growth of a lawn would concern them, because I think they're basically kind of constantly out there, constantly going across the lawn. I'm not sure if it's something that can be limited. They're obviously not a once a week thing, because they're not bagging lawns. They're not mulching. They're basically cutting the clippings, and the way that they can handle this, with such a small machine, is to be constantly out there and always be taking off just, a little bit at a time each and every time that they're out there throughout the day. And then that, keeps the lawn always at the same height, and, has a minimal effect on the appearance of the lawn, because the clippings are ever so tiny, each time. So it's not worrying about mulching them. It's just cutting them straight, as you would with like a string trimmer. But because it's constantly out there doing it, the clippings are tiny, and they just fall to the ground, and it would be the same sort of result as if it were mulching. Of course, you couldn't expect to put one of these on a lawn with big, thick, heavy growth and expect a good result. Whether even one of these machines would even be able to push through, a thick lawn. I think the lawn would have to be put gotten under control or in shape first before deploying one of these types of machines out there. So theft, for me, would be a huge concern. Having a lawn that's split up between a backyard and a front yard would be a big concern. And like I say, I'm not sure, because there's not much detail there on how this company intends to operate, as far as that. Because like I say, the only way that I could see it working is if you were able to maybe, install sort of those barriers underground initially for the client, and then you would show up still on a weekly basis and just, set this mower, put it on the ground and get it going while you do the other tasks. But like I say, it would have to be pretty quick, because you can mow a lawn very quickly with a standard mower. And, from what I've seen with these mowers, that's not the case. It would have to be, they're constantly mowing, because a weekly visit just wouldn't cut it with these mowers without having to either bag or mulch or that sort of stuff. And these mowers are not capable of that. This looks like something that would be deployed and left there. And I just don't think, at least in my case scenario, that this would work. So right there, I see it as a very limited market. Now, some other things that come into play, of course, is seasons. You do have that heavier growth, like I say, it may or may not be affected, and whether or not weather plays a part. Where I'm situated, it's always raining most of the year, so the grass is always wet, and whether or not that causes issues with these robotic mowers, with just the constant soft ground, although they are obviously would be pretty light, I would think, other than maybe the weight of a battery. But just lots of different issues. Then you come to the fall, and there's always the leaves falling, and they're quite heavy. And then if you have sticks in the ground that fall off of trees that you need to pick up, or pine cones, all that sort of stuff. There's just this constant debris, garbage. I've got lots of lawns where because of those open front yards without fences, they may be in like cul-de-sac neighborhoods and stuff, where the wind kind of blows up the street, and all of the garbage that may be, litter and things that may be around. I have one customer where it all ends up on their lawn, just because of the way where their house is situated at the end of this street with a cul-de-sac at the end, and he's on, the house on the cul-de-sac, sort of facing the street. All of the wind kind of goes up the street like a tunnel and carries all or any of the debris that happens to be, whether it's on a windy day and there's newspapers or flyers at people's doors that get blown around, they all end up on this customer's lawn. So, there's always that issue too with debris and sticks and pine cones and things like that. So I don't see at this point yet where that would be an issue with these types of mowers, where there are these small robotic mowers. I think they're not suited to this type of business. They're suited more, I believe, to the homeowner who just doesn't want to mow their own backyard, or even their own front yard, and they can have those areas set up, but it's relying on, whether it can mow the backyard on its own in sort of a gated backyard, but then we're, relying on the homeowner to then move it to a different area to do that part of the landscape. Lots of variables there, whether that would work or not, or in, like I say, rooftop gardens. So, there's no question that there is a place for these types of mowers, but they don't do everything and would require still. And this company is not stating that it's completely not human involved. They're saying that it would still require humans to supplement the work and do the edges, the trimming, and all that sort of stuff, but that these mowers would do the mowing portion of those jobs. But like I say, I don't think it's ready for prime time yet, in that sort of sense. Not to say that in the future it won't. I could definitely see, once these advance and once other companies maybe start to think about these types of mowers in a commercial landscaping company type scenario, where you could have these mowers on board, and as you show up to a client property, you're trimming, you're edging, you're removing any sticks and things from the lawn, then you set this mower down and you let it mow the lawn, and it can do it at a quicker pace. It could maybe even bag the lawn and that sort of stuff, and maybe even be gas powered, so that it is not requiring charging, or batteries are more advanced, where because it's going to take a lot of energy to mow a lawn. You look at those robotic mowers and they're constantly going back to their dock to charge up the batteries. So I don't think this is ready for prime time yet, but that's not to say that in the future this wouldn't be something that would be viable, with maybe different technology, quicker, where you could, like I said, once the initial setup is done on client properties, that you would still be driving around. You would get to a property, you'd set the mower out there, it would start mowing, and then you would just go around trimming and edging, and picking up any sticks and stuff, and the mower would be mowing the lawn relatively quickly, and going about it that way. But I think with the current technology right now, I just don't see it happening. Just too many variables with theft of machines if they're just left there, at client properties, particularly if it's like a front yard situation, and there's no fencing or anything like that, and it just doesn't seem to be something viable. Interesting idea. I'm curious to watch and look up the Shark Tank presentation. You guys can look them up on Instagram and check them out. Like I say, it's called Robin Autopilot is their Instagram name. So check them out and see. They've kind of got a blue circle sort of a baby blue with white letters that just say Robin, and a picture of a white sort of silhouette of a bird is their logo. But just interesting. So what do you guys think about this idea of setting up a company that relies on these robotic mowers to do the mowing, and you deploy these mowers at each of your customers' properties, and that they stay there throughout the week and they're mowing, and then you just show up on a weekly basis to do the trimming and the edging and all that sort of stuff. I think it's an interesting idea. I don't think, like I said, that it's ready yet. It reminds me of a company that was around here advertising electric lawn mowing, and that they had this little smart car and a tiny little trailer with a solar panel on the roof of the trailer, of the enclosed trailer, and they only used battery operated equipment, whether it was trimmers, the mowers, and blowers. Everything was battery operated, and it would charge on board with this solar panel as they drove in between. They had obviously extra batteries charging all the time and going, and they offered, this environmentally friendly mowing service. And particularly in some of the areas I live in, I've talked about these, what I call shoebox homes that are tiny little properties. This could work because the properties were, literally, 3,000 square feet or less, the entire property. And that included the house, all the hard surfaces, paving, driveways and sidewalks and all that sort of stuff, with very tiny little lawns. And I could see, in that case scenario with these, with that electric company that was using just that battery operated stuff and sort of targeting these small, areas that, something like this may work. But for the majority of lawns where, it's larger properties, open areas, I just don't see, and actually just coming to mind thinking about, properties that have lawns that are, separated. You may have a front lawn that's two sections with a sidewalk going to the front door leading up the middle, and there may be, boxwood hedges or things like that. And if you have one of these mowers on one side, it can't cross over to the other side because of the sidewalk, barrier there might be higher than the lawn. You may have hedges on either side of the sidewalk. And so I think it's very limited. The more and more I think about it, and think about the idea, the less I see it as a viable option, and just not ready yet. But I could be wrong. Like I said, I haven't watched their presentation, haven't seen what they're talking about. But I'd be curious to know what you guys think about that idea of having a lawn care company that is based on using those small robotic mowers, and you would then just be doing everything else on a weekly basis, just showing up to do the trimming and the edging and hedges and that sort of stuff. Do you think this is something that would be viable, something that you could see working in your area? So I'd be interested to know. You can send me an email, let me know what you think, or drop a comment if you're watching this on or listening to this on the YouTube version, or send me a message through Instagram and let me know what you think of this particular idea. So that's it for this week, guys. Here's to wishing you guys all overwhelming success and freedom in your lawn care business. Bye for now.